Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse. You're on the Bible Forum. We do this every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m. Eastern. You should join us. We do this live from our website, thebibleforum.net. I have a website. I have 5 websites. I have a Facebook account, a Twitter account. I have a Facebook account. They're all Bible Forum stuff. And we post the videos so that you can go back and watch over time. And there's hundreds, thousands of these things. We've been doing this almost 19 years now, another 3 or 4 months. And people write in and they comment on things that I have said, things that I have chronicled. Well, a couple of weeks ago, someone responded to a video saying, I agree a society needs some moral standards in order to be functional. However, those standards have to be based on solid, logical, and factual evidence, which totally disqualifies the Bible. Or, for that matter, any ancient document as a perfect source for our moral standards. Why? Due to all the contradictions, the discrepancies, the mistakes, the errors, the made-up stories, and the double-standard morality that they contain, which, the author says in 2018, should be acknowledged by every single human being as definitive proofs of their human origin. And I read this stuff and my mind just goes berserk. I don't know where to start. It is so off the wall. He's talking about the Bible, among other religious books, but I don't get an answer for them. I'll tell you about the Bible. He's starting with the Bible. What is the Bible? The Bible is a book that describes the only credible answer for where we come from. Everything else is about primordial ooze becoming a sophisticated being merely by time and chance. No explanation as to where the ooze came from. No explanation of what the dynamics were and how a huge explosion in the universe can create anything as complex as a human body. You don't get complex organisms out of an explosion. Thank you very much. Well over millions of years. Okay. The Bible is the only book with a rational, logical explanation as to why human beings are oriented toward self, toward pride, toward social destruction. None of that makes any sense if you're an evolutionist. We're getting better and better and better at, right? I'm 75 years old. I remember 1948. Do you? I remember 1958. Where were you when John Kennedy was shot? 1964. I can tell you where I was standing. I was carrying my baby, my son, in my arms when I heard the news. I got context that a whole bunch of people don't have, because over half the population of the country is younger than me, a lot younger than me. And then the article follows it up with the only solution that makes any sense to the author. A book from which the entire history of mankind can be traced, from Adam and Eve through every major tribe, every people group, every nationality known to mankind. A book that reflects the existence of the world's kings, dictators, rulers, and the politics that drove them, just as subsequent historians found them thousands of years later. dug up the remains of these ancient civilizations and people group, and guess what? They're right where the Bible says they were, and they did and acted and were just as the Bible described them. A book that answers questions about the dark past before any written history. I'm thinking Job, the Old Testament book of Job, written 4,000 years or more ago, no doubt before the Great Flood. A book that describes what we call prehistoric animals. The behemoth, which ate grass like an ox, but had a great neck like a mighty cedar with a short tail. Like the Leviathan, which was a sea creature of enormous size and strength. The Bible declares that, quote, nothing on earth is his equal. He is a creature without fear, and he's larger than the behemoth, the land monster. Now, men insist that these creatures lived thousands, millions of years before any human being was on the planet, and yet here they are, at least two of them, in the days of Job, in a time, no doubt, before the great flood changed everything. The Bible is a book, the only book that offers a rational explanation, a reasonable, thoughtful, viable explanation for the existence of mankind, for the wickedness of mankind, the reason there are Jews on the planet. Nobody knows why. The Bible tells you why. The only possible way sinful men could reach a holy, perfect God. The only rational answer for what we see in the affairs of men, and the only reasonable explanation for the evolving social structure. The Bible is over 2,000 years old in its present form. The Old Testament portion is over 4,000 years old. And to date, no one has ever found an error in that narrative. They have said they did. And for decades, centuries, it was known that there was an error, until archaeology exposed something nobody ever saw before, heard of before, and it's Bible was right, wasn't it? The veracity of the narrative has never been questioned by anybody that knows anything about history. The historicity is not questionable. The various accounts of the nations and their exploits, just as the Bible describes them. The people, their families, their foibles, their exploits, their doctrines, just the way history shows them. How would any human being or any group of human beings be able to do this? To sit down 2,000 years after human history began to craft a 4,000-year-old human history that is exact to the very last detail. Archaeologists use the Bible when searching for the ancient sites and artifacts. And they are never disappointed. They are never misled. These things show up right where the Bible says they are. There is no religious book in the world that compares with the Bible. The Quran, the Vedas, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Upanishads of India, which is an extension of the Vedas, the Buddhist sutras, the non-religious epic of Gilgamesh, similar to the Genesis flood account, the Iliad in 8th century BC that inspired Alexander the Great. None rise to the moral and epic stature of the Bible, and no man has ever proven the Bible wrong on any point. Not on its historicity, not on its geography, not on its genealogies, not on the doctrines, and certainly not the overwhelming influence that Bible has wielded in the world of men. But my critic writes of all the contradictions, all the discrepancies, all the mistakes, all the errors, the made-up stories, and the double-standard moralities that the Bible stories contain, which in 2018 should be acknowledged by every single human being as definitive proofs of their human origin. You see, men have butchered, maligned, twisted, lied, and distorted what the Bible teaches, in part because the things of God are spiritually discerned, and they are far above mere mortal men to ability to comprehend fully. In part because the feature of this book is redemption, a concept foreign to the sinful heart of men. And not only foreign, but it is anathema to the enemy of your soul. The evil spiritual beings that run amok all over this world, they hate this book. And naturally, humanly, there isn't anything in us that would gravitate toward it. The book features redemption, which implies I need it, which implies I'm not perfect. I'm not as good as I thought I was. In fact, I am worse than I thought I was, and I can't do anything about it. I have to trust a God I've never seen. That's a tough sell. But these things are in question in part because of the preachers and the teachers and others who have made it their business to twist it, to distort it, to take it so out of context and to lay it out in a way that is completely different. In part also because it is so rich and it's so full and it's so detailed and so complex that the occasional reader, the careless reader, the self-centered reader never gets it, never understands it. The Bible makes it very clear that the spiritual things that God has revealed in that book are spiritually discerned. The historicity, the geography, the events that took place, the concepts that exist, and the way people can use that Bible to trace everything back just serves to boggle men. They can get that part. They use that part. But the spiritual side of it, we don't need. Isn't it interesting? The same God who gave them a whole bunch of stuff they really can use in a practical way has also provided a whole bunch of stuff that's of no value to anybody. You believe that? Doesn't work that way. Keep the cards and letters coming, though. They're very entertaining.